Good evening. I'd like to call the City of Menasha Administration Committee to order. Clerk Kraut-Kramer, could we have the roll, please?
Alderman Sevenick. Alderman Langdon. Alderman Schmidt. Alderman Tom Grady. Alderman Ted Grady. Alderman Rapella. Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Alderman Taylor. All are present.
Thank you. The first item of business this evening is to approve the minutes from the Administration Committee meeting of August 16th, 2021. Is there a motion? Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Nichols. I will make a motion to approve the Administration Committee minutes from August 16th, 2021.
We have a motion from Alderman Rapella and a second from Alderman Tom Grady to approve the minutes. Any changes or discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. We have a development agreement on this evening's agenda for the fourth development agreement between the City of Menasha and Woodland Development LLC for the Woodland Heights Subdivision. Director Schrader, if you would review the high points of this development agreement, please.
Certainly. So earlier this evening, within the Common Council agenda, the Common Council approved the final plat as well as the CSM for the Woodland, what do we call this one? Woodland Heights subdivision. This would be the 10 acres following Woodcrest Heights to the north from Gosling Way or off of Kernan Ave, 10114. So this would be the remaining lands that the developer, Mike Hagens, does own there if this gets developed, as well as the Atkins development to the southeast. Similar to past development agreements, basically what we look at is to come to terms within a development agreement to kind of lay out the deferred assessment policy, as well as the maximum amount and the payback for that. So just kind of high level here. On or before June 1st of 2022, Woodland shall cause the initial installation of the initial infrastructure. We define the infrastructure, basically the subgrade utilities, the subgrade, and then the temporary asphalt. Woodland shall pay the development, or the city shall pay the Woodland development up to $676,665.54 for the cost of infrastructure. So again, that is basically a reimbursement, if you will. The Woodland Development Group would pay for the actual infrastructure and then submit invoice to the city to pay those back. We'll use the deferred assessment policy. The city does determine the assessment amount on each lot. Woodland Development shall pay a minimum special assessment back on that original deferred assessment on 3 lots per year commencing in 2022, with the full amount due no later than December 31st of 2026. Following typically 80% of the development, the city shall cause the final roadway to be constructed, and at that time will assess each property owner of record. Confirms the parkland dedication fees, the conditions of final approval, notes some assignment language, binding dispute language, and then lastly, on or before 12/1 of 2021, the final plat shall be recorded. So basically, it was approved tonight. It will be passed along for signatures to move forward. So staff does recommend the Administration Committee move this development agreement forward to the Common Council for approval.
Thank you. And this is pretty much note for note, similar to all the other development agreements with this particular developer.
Very, very close. I believe there was one added line in here regarding notification, basically providing notice to the property owner. So upon sale, they should be providing notice to the property owners to move forward.
Great. Yes, Alderman Sevenick.
There's one part in here that's missing. I don't see nothing for sidewalks.
We haven't put sidewalks in past development agreements. Again, the final plat did come through. Woodcrest Heights does not have sidewalks. Within the actual preliminary plat, it was noted a sidewalk waiver on there. We did have, I believe the mayor actually moved to remove that off of the plat, giving the ability to. It's kind of been our practice looking at the overall area of what to do moving forward. But I guess at this time, Woodcrest Heights does not have sidewalks planned for it.
There's our problem. Here we go again. The mayor had you remove it?
So on the plat, it said sidewalks will be waived. The mayor actually struck that to basically, when we came back, to make sure that it is the city's option to pay it. If we need to put something on here within that notification, that property owners shall be notified, that sidewalks may be installed in the future, that certainly could be done. I guess regarding Woodcrest Heights, I'd leave that up to the engineers, but I guess this time, I don't think it's planned for that area.
Guess I'm not interested in the development at all then. From my past experience, I do not want to go through this garbage ever again, nor do I wish it upon any council member. I think part of the development, the developers should have sidewalks. And I think they should be part of the development agreement, and not that they be maybe put in at some point, but that they be part of the development, period. That's just my opinion, but to me, it's not a neighborhood unless you have that built in.
To your comment, Alderman Sevenick, we do typically wait on our roads. Are you asking us to place the sidewalk up front as part of the development?
I do. I'm tired. I am absolutely tired of it.
So,
I see other communities doing it, and it's not an issue. Once someone wants to build a home, they don't give a crap about sidewalks at all. It's after. It's like, we can't afford that now. And then the dilemma comes in. I'm sorry, I think it should be part of the agreement. If they don't want to do it, there's other developers then. One side, both sides? It should be at least on one side, just like we did out in Lake Park. And the only reason I agree to one side is because this way, when they develop the property, they have the footprint to be able to do it.
Are you saying at time of paving or at? So I guess one of our practices is that we usually have, I believe it's 3 freeze-thaw cycles over utility trenches before we do final paving. Would we be okay with that being completed at the time of or putting in the concrete curb and gutter and roadway, final roadway?
I think when the curb and
Sidewalk.
gutter and the street go
We just
in,
want to clarify, so we.
it should be required of sidewalks.
Okay.
And the property owner,
And that would
before
be-
he purchases or she purchases that property, understands that there's going to be sidewalks put in.
And so I guess if that's the direction of the administration committee, we can certainly, if
I'm just
it's
one
acceptable
person.
to
I
move
don't
it.
know. I
Well,
know Ted is not a sidewalk person because he doesn't have sidewalks. I've had sidewalks my whole life. I think it's what makes a community.
Yeah.
I
So-
do not like it, and I do not believe it should be done where people are walking their strollers out in the middle of a street, which they're doing, and that's ridiculous.
So I guess I would leave it, again, for the rest of the discussion, but we could, certainly the 2 options, or there's certainly more options. We could say, add the language to the common council, and we can talk to the developer between that time. We can table it, to hold it, to see what comes back. And again, possibly, we look to, put the gravel in, at the time when the initial infrastructure is put in, so there's a clear delineation that sidewalks will be put in or something, while those houses are sold.
I just want to make sure the property owner understands sidewalks will be put in, and the developer has to make that part of his agreement with the lots that he sells. And when,
Can you hold that thought, Alderman
yes,
Sevenick?
I'm sorry, I
before-
was waiting for you to recognize.
Because we don't have a motion yet. Great, thank you. Alderman Ted Grady.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I understand the importance or non-importance of sidewalks. Sidewalks are kind of necessary if you're by a school and you have to use them. I'm in an area where there aren't sidewalks, and I'm kind of by a school, but I don't see kids walking to school. I just don't see the use of sidewalks like they used to be years and years and years ago. And if I'm in this new development and the sidewalk's on just one side, they're gonna get complaints, oh, I got a shovel and they don't have to and this and that, and unevens and they crack and they sit, but it's a good debate. Then you do both, but I'm still in the, I mean, we did Willow Street, or Willow area, and sidewalks weren't, first of all, gonna be in there, then we didn't put them in there, and I think the residents there are happy that they don't have the sidewalks. But, I don't know, we can talk and talk, but maybe we have to bring this back, Chair, but I don't wanna make this the showstopper for some real nice development that's gonna go on out there.
Thank you. Alderman Rapella.
Thank you, Alderman Nichols. Corey, is there going to be, I know you said you'd have a plan for the sidewalks to go in. After, when the street has got the stone in and stuff like that, is there, when would a homeowner assume, or when would a homeowner be able to plan that a sidewalk would go in? Within the first 5 years of construction? I mean, would you be willing to put something on that so they would have a time frame to know that the sidewalk would be in 5 years? Something like that, because I know I had to wait. On my division, we didn't get sidewalks, but we still had to wait for a number of years. So many houses were built before the street was put in. So
typically, yes, we do wait until an area is 75 to 80%. That's kind of a number that's been thrown out there. I'm just gonna say generally, majority built out.
right.
Before we would go in and put the final street in, the curb and gutter and the
So
final
you're waiting,
4-inch
you're
asphalt.
gonna say the sidewalk won't be put in until you put your final street in?
It doesn't have to be that way.
Okay.
That would be, my recommendation, but it definitely doesn't have to be that, no.
I'm okay with that as long as that they knew that within 5 years, there was going to be 100% chance of having or 100%, there's going to be a sidewalk there. And I think Stan wants a sidewalk put in before the street's put in.
My only worry, and there's ways around it. My worry about putting the sidewalk in up front right away is, the trenches are definitely gonna settle.
Right.
There are some ways around that. During home construction, sidewalk's gonna be damaged. The builder's responsible for it, the homeowner, the builder, whatever, would have to repair it, replace it.
The sidewalk's already broke by Festival on Nature's Way, where they're building the counseling center, so.
Yeah, it happens and it gets replaced.
Right.
So there's ways around it. Yeah, if we wanted to put it in with the initial road, we could.
Attorney Captain.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that it's paragraph 7, and what is in this agreement is 80 to 90% completion or 5 years, whichever comes first. And then it's identified by milling the existing pavement, curb and gutter, 4-inch asphalt pavement of the street and trail, and site restoration. We specifically have started putting in this notice requirement because we have had issues with this developer before, as far as, folks coming forward and saying, oh, we didn't know. Whether or not that occurred, we have no idea, but we affirmatively have put in a requirement that the developer has to notify each prospective buyer that there will be a future assessment. It has to be in writing, and we have to be provided a copy of that notice, otherwise it's a material breach of the contract.
Just jotting a note. Also noted in paragraph 7, there's no mention of the possibility of sidewalks.
That is correct.
Okay,
That would be the place to add it,
okay,
unless you want it done sooner, because this is the final, if you wanted sidewalks done prior to the final curb and gutter and pavement, it would be in a different paragraph.
okay. Director Schrader's just focusing on the development agreement itself and this discussion about sidewalks. If the committee requested that be added to the agreement, what would the next steps be then? Would you need to take it back to the developer and renegotiate this item? And would it affect the cost of the project?
I would think it is up to the common council. If sidewalks are to be put in directly at this time, then we should do that. We can just basically notify the developer. They certainly have an opportunity to come and speak at the common council meeting about that. So again, we could modify this and continue to move it forward in that fashion. The dollar amount would likely increase depending on the initial infrastructure, and staff can discuss that internally. For instance, if we did put the base down, the gravel base down for the sidewalks initially, then that would increase the cost. If we were to do the full sidewalks at a later date with the final curb and gutter in the street, then at that point, it would not impact the cost, as we would specially assess that later. But would that be considered a replacement if any of it was damaged?
If it was damaged by the builder, it would be replaced by them.
By them, okay. So basically, if we did put the sidewalks in initially, and the cost was added to the $675,000, any damage to the sidewalks during construction would be replaced by the builder.
Okay. So that would increase our cost for the project and increase his cost if there was a need to repair or damage.
Correct.
Well, we have assessed for sidewalks and we haven't, as I recall. Am I correct on that, Mayor?
We did include them in the TIF in the ponds. Mm-hmm. There's no TIF in this area.
Yeah. Okay.
Alderman Nichols, if I could
Yes, go ahead.
make one other comment. It seems like there's 3 ways to do this. 1, install the sidewalks along with the initial street, with the gravel street. 2, require the developer to install the sidewalk as each house is built, which is what I believe our developer in the ponds wanted to do, but we didn't let them do that. Or 3, put them in at the time of the final street, which is where we always have the problems. So it seems like option 1 or 2 may be easier, but I'm not sure about the other half, about how they might fare with settling and all that.
Okay. And what does the rest of the area look like? We've had several conversations over the past umpteen years about sidewalks being installed, and people show up and they don't want them, and everything gets changed, and this has all come from this deferred policy. So as far as the rest of the neighborhoods and subdivisions out there, what do they have right now as far as sidewalks go?
So currently, none of the existing subdivisions out there have any sidewalks. There is the planned future trail that would go down Woodland Drive around Kernan and then down Gosling. So this, again, would be the extension to the north there. I was just conferring with the engineering staff. So the Woodcrest Heights as well as the Gosling Way streets are still temporary streets. So we have not come through and put the final street on there. So we would have to look to see if there was any agreements made back when those original subdivisions were constructed regarding the sidewalk, to see if we would connect that sidewalk from this future subdivision down to Gosling Way to connect to that future trail.
But then we'd have essentially 2 subdivisions connected and the rest not connected via sidewalk. I'm just envisioning what's out there, and I know the majority of it is no sidewalks. And so to have, at this point, I get the issue about sidewalks and wanting them and them being part of walkable neighborhoods. And I feel like we lost this battle years ago. Well, because we did it wrong. And now for me, it's kind of like, what's the point if we have sidewalks in front of these 18 homes, but the rest still don't have sidewalks?
Because there's trails that will be connecting the areas. That's not gonna happen.
Alderman Taylor.
Item 10, item 10.1. In cooperation with the city of Menasha, trails will be extended across the development. This is not only will increase the walkability of Menasha community, but increases the overall visual perception. As the Menasha Trail continues through the development, this can be a welcoming spot for the community. Members to see the continued investment in their hometown. In addition, sidewalks will parallel at least one side of each street. Redundant sidewalks will be avoided where there is already a trail or path. Create a small loop or infringe on the privacy of a home. This not only creates a welcoming environment for families, but also control foot traffic in the public areas of the community, keeping Menasha safe and the community to continue to draw both visitors and residents. So,
Alderman Taylor, what are you reading
Kinda.
from?
kind of sounds like there's sidewalks that are going to be put in.
But what are you reading from?
This is from what we had earlier in the council meeting for the development out there.
That's for, is that,
Clubhouse. With the Woodland
is that
Hills.
for the Atkins development?
Yeah,
That's another development.
Really?
Yeah.
This is a different one. We need a map.
Yeah, this is a
We
different
need a
one.
map to show us where the trails are then and where the sidewalks are going to
Mm-hmm.
be. So here's another development saying, yeah, sidewalks are good, and then this one doesn't. And another thing I wanted to touch on is, this is an opportunity, I think, that I've talked about for a long time. If you look at the Southfield and other developments out there, the streets are in really bad shape with the blacktop. And I think here's an opportunity for us to put in here in writing that it would be constructed with concrete. And we've had different people come up here and say, we don't want blacktop on our street. We want concrete on our streets. Appleton does it in every single subdivision. There's no blacktop. They get 50 years out of it. We got Southfield and a couple cul-de-sacs back there that we got 20, 25 years out of it. So here's an opportunity, I think, to say, hey, let's move to concrete. And the homeowner picks it up the first time, and these are pretty luxury homes. So here's an opportunity, instead of putting that blacktop down. Put it down on my street 2 years ago. This week, Farner was in there, patching it, putting in all the liquid tar to fill the cracks already in 2 years. And if it was concrete, we wouldn't be touching it. So I think it's an opportunity for us to defer some maintenance and put concrete in, and let the people pay for a quality product the first time instead of putting blacktop in. So I think that should be in there too, that decide if we want blacktop or concrete. I think Appleton has shown us the way with that, and also Nina does it too in spots. Thank you.
Alderman Sevenick?
I just want to say that you can write in what you want, but the reason Randy doesn't have sidewalks or Ted is because of exactly the policy that you're trying to put here, minus the language of sidewalks. And that is, if you don't put it in, it's not going to happen. Because later on, people look at that and they get comfortable about not having to shovel, which I understand. But they also don't want to spend any more money, period. But when they build their home, they don't even, sidewalk, that's not even an issue. She's more concerned about her furniture being put in, so. And we already provide every opportunity for developers. We are the only community that offer a deferred assessment policy. So these costs could be spread all over a long period of time, so I don't know. I'm just trying to think ahead here. I just have been down this road so many times that I've said to myself, boy, if we get a development in the future, let's do it right and not completely right. So I'll leave it at that.
Alderman Taylor?
What I read here, I think, is it's right out there in the neighborhood, and with the sidewalk issue, and there we have a good template. And I think that kind of covers it all for one side, and if there's trails, and, you know, I think it's a good opportunity to follow that since it's right in the neighborhood. Thank you.
You're welcome. Director Schrader, just a curious question on my part. Can sidewalks be part of plats?
Legally, I guess we'd have to take a look at, what the legal bounds of a plat is. I believe you can make notes on a lot of plats. So it could be something we could circle back around to.
I mean,
in the
I just
future.
think if someone's buying a piece of property to build a home and they know a sidewalk is part of their plat, then it's on the plat. I mean, they know what they're buying and they know what they're getting into. And whether that sidewalk is there then, or when the house is completed, or 3 years later, it's on their plat.
And I think from staffing standpoint, this is kind of been a very similar development agreement that has come through this developer multiple times. We've actually increased it to have minimum paybacks. There was, deferred assessments out there for a long time in previous development agreements, so we have been tightening that up with everyone that comes along. And again, I think professionally speaking, the reason staff did not push it is because the rest of the subdivision doesn't have it. But if that is the direction that we would like to start going here, I don't think there's no lost feelings from a staffing level, and we can certainly talk to the developer about why we would be pushing this.
I think, do you have something to add, Deputy Director Gordon? Okay. Okay, so committee members, what's your prerogative? Do you want to add sidewalks to the agreement? And if so, how do you want to do it? The city attorney mentioned that it would be done in paragraph 7, and the mayor provided 3 ways to accomplish that. Mayor Merkis, you might have to help me recall them. One was to simply have them put in early on as,
We could put them in with the initial gravel street,
yeah,
which I've seen happen in Appleton, but that does have issues, as Deputy Director Gordon was saying, with the construction, driving over the top of them, and the sinking trenches. Option 2 could be, as you build your house, you pour your concrete driveway, you pour your sidewalks at the same time, otherwise you don't get a occupancy permit, and item 3 is you put them in at the same time as the curb and gutter, or option 3. And I think we probably want to talk with Public Works and Engineering a little bit to make sure that we come up with a good option that's going to be long-lasting. But those would be the 3 times that I've seen it installed, depending on where you're putting them in.
Chair?
Yes.
Would it be acceptable, I guess, for staff to have some internal discussions about the best way to move this forward and bring that back? If, again, the direction is to move this forward with sidewalks, we can certainly add some language, have some conversations with the developer, basically saying, you know, it's not getting approved without it. Again, if that is the direction that we get to. I know Corey had just brought up another possible method that may actually work fairly well. And even how we're looking at the notification, maybe we can modify that slightly within the development agreement and continue this forward.
So am I hearing that adjusting the notification might be a 4th alternative? Is that what I just heard?
Or a duplicate alternative, yes, to make
Okay.
sure we're piling it on there, depending on the final outcome.
Yes, Alderman Sevenick.
I'm looking at this last map here, the very, oops, from McMahon, or, oh my gosh, stop it.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm seeing these little lines that look like sidewalks. What is,
Those would
dashed
be,
lines.
those would be easements.
those are, okay, the easements for sidewalk.
Nope, the sidewalk would be within the 60-foot public right-of-way, so where the property line ends, the sidewalks would be on the inside of that.
But there's 30 feet?
So the 30-foot, that's the building setback,
Okay.
and then the inside line, that is an easement.
How many feet are the easements? I don't see any. Are they all different, or?
12-foot?
Oh, so if they're 12 feet,
It's
then, and the
private
typical
utilities.
sidewalk is 5 foot, so a
Yep.
sidewalk would be able to fit into those areas.
The sidewalk would fit
In the right-
inside the right-of-way. So where the property line is, and you're looking at the 12-foot easement, it would be on the other side of the property line. So there's 60 feet of road right-of-way. Each sidewalk on both sides would be 5 feet, so 10 feet total. And then typically back-to-back curb is roughly around 30 feet, so that still leaves terrace area.
It's private utility. It's a private utility easement typically, that 12 feet, that's for WPS.
Right, but
you know,
we use
right
the
now we're seeing
easement too.
TDS. Pardon?
We use the easements also for.
We do not. It's private utility only, typically.
Sidewalks typically within the road right away.
Correct.
That's what I meant.
Within that 60 foot.
To me, that's okay, that's an easement, our easement, the road right away.
Right away.
Yes. So, and then, oh God, I'm sorry to keep going on tonight, you guys, but, I mean, these things are important. And I'm looking at the width of the street, because I dealt with people not so long ago complaining about the width of their street stuff, and you have 60 feet here, is that correct?
So that's 60 feet of road right away. So typically, that mimics what we currently have out there on Woodcrest Heights is a 60-foot right away. We have done some streets down to like 50-foot right aways.
Oh, this is 60-foot street
Not 60.
right away, it's
right
not the
away.
road width.
Correct,
So
that's not the road
road width
width.
could be the typical 33 feet.
I believe it would be planned that these would be 33, but don't quote me 100% on
No,
that.
and they could be bigger.
Leaving 8.5, 9.5, 8.5 feet roughly on each side.
Okay, all right, thank you, sorry.
Alderman Rapella.
Thank you very much, Alderman Nichols. Sam, is there any way that you could provide, maybe you have, and I just haven't found it, just provide us a map of where the sidewalks would go and also the trail of that whole conglomerate of streets there, just so we can see the sidewalks would be connected somehow, some way? And I realize the sidewalks at some point in the next 5, 10, 15 years will be, or I should say the street will be extended to Manitowoc at some point. But I just wanted to make sure the sidewalks had a place to go, as far as I know, just walking on the sidewalks, but going somewhere. Are they gonna connect up with that trail that's on Gosling and wiggling its way through that Kernan subdivision? Is there some way that you could have a big, huge type of?
We can provide something at a subsequent meeting, basically showing the overview, but possibly from the comprehensive outdoor rec plan. That kind of shows the overall trail system. And then basically, it's going to be the conversation of the common council. Do we want to, when we do these sidewalks, if that is approved within the Woodland Heights subdivision, do we want to go south down Woodcrest Heights to Gosling Way and make that connection, and especially assess those property owners?
Because those houses are already built,
Those houses are already built.
and they were told to have sidewalks, or they were told not to have sidewalks, or what were they informed of, 5 years ago when their houses were built?
I cannot comment on that tonight. We
Okay.
would have to look into that.
Okay, please look into that, and then somehow let us know next meeting, please. Otherwise, we'll have them having a discussion and a fight whether they want sidewalks. So, thank
Okay.
you very much.
So is it the direction of the committee at this time to direct staff to investigate what would be the best option to incorporate sidewalks into this development agreement? On both or one side of the street? Is that your question?
Could change the outcome or the price, roughly one side. You're looking at roughly ballpark about 30 grand. You put it on both sides, it's not, it'll probably be close to doubling it if you put it on both sides.
So 30 grand for one house, is that what they?
One side of the street.
Oh, okay, yeah. Not one house. Gotcha.
Well, is it safe to assume that two sides would be double the cost as one side? Okay.
It would be safe to assume, prices are gonna change over the next 5 years. So that's a very rough
That might be the case,
estimate.
but they're still accessible, right?
Yeah,
So if it's safe to make that assumption, then let's just go with one side. And then,
What I just read, the development agreement from the other, just up the road, I think that's a great thing to work.
did that have two sides? All right, two sides. All right, I'm good. It had one side?
It said one side,
Okay, one side. One side.
if you follow that.
And then that will come back to administration committee? Is that the direction of the committee?
Well, they're gonna negotiate with the developer to see what.
Well, okay, we'll put it in there. All right, seeing no other discussion, is that clear enough direction?
All I know.
Well, I think what Alderman Grady is saying, that regardless of, what you bring back, unfortunately, no sidewalks is still an option. I think that's what he's saying.
Yes. Are we looking to bring it back, table it and bring it back here, or move it forward to council and bring it back to council?
That's what I just asked, and I'm hearing,
Back to council or here?
I'm hearing the committee say, come back here. And we don't have a motion on the floor at this time. Okay? All right. Great. With that, then, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn by Alderman Taylor and a second by Alderman Tom Grady. All in favor signify by saying aye. We are adjourned.